That's a nice looking fursuiter right there. Oh boy, I could just eat him up. Oh, hello there. Furries are this weird and strange thing. They used to be this anomaly that adults were into because they identified themselves as anthropomorphic animal characters that had human characteristics. And now furries are one of the biggest subcultures on the internet. But how did adults wearing animal costumes grow to become one of the biggest subcultures on the entire internet? Well, in order to find the answer to that question, we have to go back to the past. Take it away, boring voiceover man. The furry subculture first originated in 1980 when the book Albedo Anthropomorphics, written by Steve Gallagher, sparked a discussion on anthropomorphic animals having similar characteristics and mannerisms to that of humans. The term furry was first used in 1983 by the way of fanzines, which were fan magazines. This was used as a way to speak directly to the people who identified and embraced the furry lifestyle. Think of it like Nintendo Power, but for furries. But some people out there believe furries existed way before that. First in 1965 with the book Kimba the White Lion, and then in 1972 with the book Watership Down, as well as its 1978 film adaptation. Some also believe that Disney's animated version of Robin Hood was said to have sparked the furry movement into what it is today. Furries gained significant popularity throughout the 80s and well into the 90s. In fact, so much interest was generated around furries that the first ever furry fan convention was held in 1989. And then, a year later, in November 1990, the forum, Alt Fan Furry, was created for other furries to talk and communicate with one another. Now this was pre-internet, by the way, so this was the only way people could essentially talk and communicate with each other, similar to that of bulletin board systems. But when the World Wide Web took off and became, well, a worldwide phenomenon, the internet became the dominant place for furries to talk and communicate with one another about, well, furry stuff. According to a survey, 80% of the furry fandom is male-dominated. Personas are character personas furries will use to identify themselves as anthropomorphic animal characters. Personas are incredibly versatile and can be anything they want them to be, whether it be lions, tigers, bears, cats, foxes, rabbits, Donald Trump, Josh Duggar, Jared Fogle. Oh wait, what? Oh, my bad, those last three totally didn't count. Anyways, moving on. There are detailed manifestos and outlines for how these personas work, who these characters are, the clothes they wear, their mannerisms, their whole attitude, basically like a human. Now, personas have been around for a long time. I mean, hell, just look at Tony the Tiger, the mascot of Frosted Flakes, for the earliest example. And since then, personas have become extremely popular in the furry community. In fact, they're the #1 way you can identify a furry. A fursona. Now, fursonas, in a way, are a lot like otherkin, the only difference being fursonas are characters in which they believe they're anthropomorphic animals, whereas otherkin, they believe they're part dragon, or part alien, or part zombie, or whatever the case may be. They can also take certain aspects from other creatures, whether it be aliens, vampires, zombies, etc., to make a kind of fursona hybrid. Now, they don't just express them through the power of the internet, they also express them in real life, whether it be when they're out and about, or most likely at furry conventions where they can talk and communicate with other furries. Personas are, for all intents and purposes, a way for furries to identify themselves within the greater furry community, and they actually believe to a certain extent that they are those characters. Personas have gained an immense amount of popularity throughout the years, and are essentially the main way you can identify a furry. They also dress up as these characters in real life, similar to that of fursuiters. And if you don't know who fursuiters are people who dress up in animal costumes in real life and, go nuts, I guess you could say. Well, some do it for recreation, whether that be for a job, doing the nay-nay while encouraging people to buy $5 hot and ready pizza, or as the mascot for sports teams. Oh, well, other people are serious about it. This is their life. This is what they identify themselves. This is their entire existence and identity. Now, personas are not sexual in the way that furries aren't sexual. In fact, that's a common misconception. A lot of people believe that furries and really personas are sexual. That's really not the case. And a lot of people believe that furries and fursonas are people that are mentally ill or unstable or are just outright nuts. When in fact, that isn't the case. In fact, a lot of the people that have these fursonas are incredibly well adjusted and live lives like regular human beings. This is just something they like to do as a hobby in their spare time because, it's fun. If you go on DeviantArt, if you go on the internet in general, and hell, if you even go on Google and type in fursona, you can find dozens upon dozens upon dozens of fursona characters. It's an incredibly popular thing. And it's seen to a lot of furries as a positive aspect, because it's used to identify themselves. It's used as a way in the same way as video games. It's used to escape from reality and into a complete fantasy world where they're a badass, where they're this, where they're that. That's what makes fursonas incredibly important to furries, because this is what they choose to identify themselves as. And along with fursuiters are the most important ways you can identify, a furry. And even though furries for the most part have started to gain a wider acceptance in internet culture and are pretty much one of the important figures of the internet, not everybody throughout the years have been so widely accepting. The most common misconception about furries is that they're a bunch of weirdos in animal costumes who simply desire to have sex with other anthropomorphic animals. This could be farther from the truth. Many furries are interested in the culture and community built up around it, rather than the whole sexual aspect of it all. And while yes, many furries engage in healthy sexual relationships, they do so with actual humans, not in their fursuits. The reason for this, they are very expensive and custom made, and having sex and doing all sorts of other strenuous activities would severely damage the quality of the suit. Furries have become an increasingly prime target when it comes to roasting on the internet. I mean, hell, if you look on YouTube, there are dozens upon dozens upon dozens of videos of people making fun of furries and the entire furry lifestyle, decrying them as weirdos. And while some users, like I Hate Everything and A Dose of Buckley, provide actual reasoning as to why they think furries are weird, others just hate the furry fanbase to hate, to generate views and stir up unneeded controversy while completely missing the point of the fanbase and hating them for stupid, silly, and insignificant reasons. I'm looking at you, Daniel. Anyways, moving on. In 2014, at an event called Midwest Fur Fest in Chicago, Illinois, someone threw chlorine gas into the facility, which forced everyone in the event to evacuate. This was seen as a hate crime, and although thankfully nobody was hurt. Many people believe that furries are sexual deviants, sexual creatures, that they're weird, they're unusual, they're strange, and they should just be purged from the internet. And while furries are definitely weird, strange, and unusual, and the ones that are into Rule 34 and zoophilia are just, they really send shivers down my spine. I think furries are, in a lot of ways, very fascinating. They break societal norms. They go against what's perceived to be normal out there. And they're not afraid to express who they are, and they flaunt who they are at every opportunity. This is not something that many people are willing to do. We live in a culture where everybody is so afraid what people are going to say and think about them. Furries completely cut out all of that nonsense and pretense and just flaunt who they are. They say, yeah, I'm a furry. Yeah, I like anthropomorphic animals and I'm proud of it. How are you doing? And this is something entirely refreshing. And this is not something that very few people are willing to do. Whereas many people are afraid to embrace who they are and afraid to express who they are in fear of backlash, furries are incredibly open about who they are, the types of things that they do, and for many furries, it's not just a hobby, it's not just something they do in their spare time, it's a way of life. This is something that they build their entire existence around. And it requires some serious dedication and honestly a lot of guts to do. The fact that they've been able to turn what was just this weird kind of subculture that has started in the 80s and turn it into this massive, ginormous thing that actually has its own following is nothing short of remarkable. And not only do furries have their own wikis and forums and message boards and all that other crap, they actually have their own show on YouTube called Furries React. No, I'm serious. They actually have their own show. Go on YouTube and look up Furries React. Trust me, you will not be disappointed. You can't sue me now, Fine Brothers, for using the word react, huh? Anyways, moving on. So we've covered the basic history of furries, where they came from, fursonas, fursuiters, and the hate and, roasting of them all. But what does the young hero think? Well, let's toss it off to him. Take it away, young hero. I gotta say, this was a really fun episode for me to tackle. While most people will think furries are sexual deviants, that they're weird, creepy, annoying, strange, all this stuff. To me, I find furries to be incredibly fascinating. The fact that they were able to build this weird subculture that started in the 80s via a book about anthropomorphic animals and turn it into this global community that's about love, acceptance, and tolerance, to me is absolutely amazing. When you look at what's going on in the world right now, when you look at Donald Trump, when you look at the Fort McMurray fires, when you look at the Paris terror attacks that happened last year, I feel the world has become so dark and cynical that it's hard for anybody to enjoy anything anymore. So the fact that these people can readily accept who they are and are not afraid to embrace it, and they're not afraid to say, yeah, this is who I am, I'm comfortable with who I am, and I'm not afraid to express it. That to me is amazing and inspiring, and that's not something a lot of people are willing to do. A lot of people will shun who they are. They'll try to sweep it under the rug because they're so afraid what other people will say or think about them. Furries just don't really care. They'll flaunt it wherever and whenever they can. They just don't care. They just say, yeah, I'm a furry, I'm proud of it, how are you doing? You know? And that to me is just, it's great. And that's not something that you see too much of. So if these people can enjoy themselves and live their lives how they want to and identify who they are, that's something that I personally believe, and I know I might take some flack for this, but I don't care. That's something that I think we need to be more encouraging of, especially considering the world is in a very dark and cynical place right now. Sorry, excuse me. Is in a very dark and cynical place right now. This is something that we need to do more of. And the reason I created this show was not just to cover internet culture, but was to break down a lot of these common misconceptions and really showcase a different way of approaching these topics, to make people think a different way about this kind of stuff, because the common misconception about furry is that, oh, they're all about sex, 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 sex. And as I've showcased in this video, that's not really the case. It's really about culture and community. And I think if I can make you guys aware of what's really going on and make you think a different way about these topics, then I think I'm doing my job right. Look, I have no problem with furries in the same way that I have no problem with bronies. I mean, hell, my best friend Eric, Kinraiku here on YouTube, he's a brony. I mean, honestly, they don't affect me. They don't affect how anybody lives life. And honestly, if you want to live your life believing that you're a lion, cat, tiger, bear, fox, rabbit, whatever, then, you know what, that's your prerogative. Whatever you do in your personal life is your business. It doesn't affect me. Like, if somebody walks up to me tomorrow and says, I'm a furry and proud of it, I'd be like, good for you, man. Keep on keeping on. So, yeah, furries get my Young Hero seal of approval. And, yeah, that's all I gotta say about this particular topic. This is ThatKidDouglas, aka the Young Hero, signing out. Deuces. Stay frosty and keep it weird. Cue an outro sequence now. Ah, that's some good OJ. I wonder who's calling now. Hello?
The difference between cyberbullying and trolling? Shut the fuck up.
Oh, hey, Mr. Enter, what's up?
You don't make art. You make crap. You have always made crap.
Whoa, 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 whoa. What's with all the hostility?
There is no excuse for this. Back to the...
Yeah, I know the first episode was poorly received, but hey, we all make mistakes. If you give me a chance, I'll make this sequel awesome.
Should have been less flammable. You see, that excuse only works until you realize that you're talking about a human, and humans have limits, not only physical, but mental and emotional as well. And no, one insult isn't going to do anything, just like one drop of rain won't do anything.
Look, if you want me to make the sequel, I'll do it. Just calm down. I mean, these are cartoons. You don't need to take them that seriously.
Know that I absolutely hate these writers. I despise their guts. Want them blacklisted. Zeus Service is clearly some kind of sadistic asshole that lives in a world of insane troll logic. Richard Purcell is just a plain sadist. And Casey Alexander, he's a complete idiot.
Alright, fine. I'll make the sequel. Just never call his number again, okay? And just don't take these cartoons so seriously.
Racist, but doesn't even bother to have its racism make sense. That cutaway, understandably, put Brian to sleep.
Alright, I'm heading up now. Okay, bye. Why do I get myself into this crap?